Hello, how you guys doing? Welcome back to my podcast. I'm Yemi and I'm back with another episode. It's your first time. Well, welcome to my podcast. You can check out the other ones that I have uploaded. Okay? So today, I intend to talk about a couple of things. Today is one of those days that I actually have like a topic to talk about because most days I don't. I just come here to ask you how your week has been, which I will still ask you. How has your week been? What's been happening with you? What are you up to? What have you been doing? And I actually want answers in the comments. You guys don't respond when I ask, and I'm wondering why you guys don't respond. I mean, just answer. Let me know what's going on, okay? Can't be just me talking here every time. Anyway, I'll tell you how my own week went. So last week I published my first short story, Catch, and it's on Google Play and Amazon. Those two platforms they stressed me initially. The first time Amazon was just being annoying. Eventually I was able to upload and publish. I mean, they publish when they like, they publish when they think they can approve it. So it went up on Friday. I'm grateful to everyone that has supported, shared, and purchased the story and read it. I'm still waiting for y'all's feedbacks though. But I'm glad that some of you have bought and read. I'm happy for that. I'm happy about that. Also, it's available on Google Play. That happened this week. I don't know what happened all through last week. Since when I uploaded, they just kept stressing me. But eventually, they published it and it's available on Google Play as well. I'll have the two links in my description box so that you can check it out if you still have not. Okay? So, what have I been doing? I started reading Love in Color. I mentioned last week that I was going to start reading Love in Color. It's a book of short stories. I do not know exactly how many. I'm guessing it's 12, but I'm not too sure. Or maybe 10, I'm not too sure. But I've read 4 so far. I read Oshun, I read Sherazad, I read Nefertiti, I read Atem. So those, I'm currently reading Ya. And I'd say those, I like reading short stories, basically, because one, time commitment. So I can just start one day and finish it one day and then go on to do other things that I have to do. It just helps me to kind of grow I'd say grow a reading habit, develop a reading habit. So that's why I started with short stories first. I've read novels. I used to read a lot of novels in high school. That was my life. Reading before bed, reading till I sleep off. But I kind of stopped reading because I think a lot of that time I was just reading all those Harlequin novels, those romantic kind of books. But eventually I dropped that and then I decided to pick up reading again sometime last year. And then I started with short stories that I just found online and also on Okada Books. And then I also read Purple Hibiscus by CNA. Now I'm just back to reading short stories because, I could still pick up novels. I think my goal is pretty much to read 2 novels the entire year and then read short stories, as many short stories as possible. So yeah, the 4 stories that I've read so far from Love in Color, I love them. I'd say in the order that I love them, I would say most favorite one to my least favorite one. Ocean is like my favorite, followed by Atem, followed by Sherazad, then Nefertiti. Now these stories are based on myths from around the world, I think mainly in Africa and also Middle East. These stories are stories that you probably have heard or watched in cartoons and stuff like that, but they're just retold in a different way, pretty fictional, but they still have the flair of the original story. And the writer tells the stories of these women in such, I love how she tells their stories. Okay, you see these women as very strong women, not the kind of strong that likes suffering. I don't like that kind of strong. I have no business with that kind of strong. Just strong women that are self-aware, that know what they want and they go after the things that they want. They are aware of their surroundings. They're very discerning. They're very calculated. Or is it calculative? Calculated. God, English is failing me. And they're also vulnerable women. They just know when to be vulnerable and who to be vulnerable with, which is something that I appreciate. Okay, so if you like short stories and you like to see women in this light, go ahead and read Love in Color. It's an amazing story. Okay, there are women that would not settle for less than they deserve, and I absolutely love that about the writing. So you see that if you go to read it. Away from what I've been reading, there are other platforms where you can find short stories apart from Google Play and Amazon Kindle. There's Wattpad, there's Okada Books, but that's mainly African writers. They also have a bunch of other writers there, but it's mainly African writers. I think there are a couple other places that you can find short stories that I can't remember right now, but they exist. So yeah, that's what I've been doing with my life. In this episode, this is one of those episodes where I actually have something that I want to talk about. So I want to talk about not necessarily my experience, but more of some of the things that I learned while shooting the very first movie that I worked on. I just want to share some things that I learned along the way, and it might just help anyone who wants to venture into production or who wants to be an independent filmmaker or wants to shoot their own movie. Now, I worked as a producer on Lydia's Huddle. Lydia's Huddle is available on YouTube. Now my voice wants to fail me. Okay, I had to take a quick coughing break. So, I worked on Lydia's Huddle, which is it's not a short film. I wouldn't say it's a short film, but it's a movie. It's about an hour long, I think. And it's on YouTube. I have the link in the description box for you to check it out if you haven't. So I worked there as set operations manager, producer, costume person, props person, well, that's set design, editor, everything that's you could. But I think there are just a couple of things that I really did not do. What I did, I handled the camera. I want to share a couple of things that I learned while doing this, working on this project, and it might just help anyone who is thinking about production or who probably has even started production, but there are just some things that you're just not aware of. And I'll just let you know in this episode. So I just start. The first thing I would say, I kind of have my notes here because I just noted some things down, and I definitely don't have all the knowledge possible, but you should definitely check out, YouTube videos from people who have done this and, what they learned as well. First thing I'll tell you is that shooting can be expensive. Now, it does not have to be, but the little things that you end up using for like your set design, your costume, those little details, they end up being expensive. They will not look expensive when you're buying them from maybe dollar store or from the cheap markets where you can easily find stuff, or maybe when you're even buying from places like Value Village or thrift stores. Basically, they might not look expensive, but by the time you put everything together, you'll be like, wow. You was very surprised. Those $2, $1, $1.50, $1.25, everything together. By the time you put the price together, you'll be very surprised. So those things do add up. So I would say, while you're like trying to keep everything within budget, just kind of be prepared for that to happen. And also learn some DIY. Sometimes you could turn like your plastic bowl into like a flower basket, or just be ready to improvise to make your set look better, okay? And be ready to spend money on props. You see those little business cards that you print, the containers, the stationary desk or stationary box that you use for storing stuff for stationery, maybe in an office environment, stuff like that. Those things get expensive, so learn DIYs to kind of help you with the cost. The next thing I would say is get spares of every little thing. So things like your camera batteries, definitely very important. You don't want your battery finishing off a set, although it could motivate you to work fast, manage your shooting, but you really don't want your battery dying, especially when you're shooting like a very intense moment or a very intense scene, this kind of things. So have extra batteries, have more memory cards than you need, because things just happen. You can just insert your memory card and to just fail. It's just decide that very day that you want to shoot is the day it's not going to be available. So have more memory cards. I prefer to use 32 gig memory cards. I've discovered that if I lose a 64 gig card, I'm going to shed tears. Not because of the price, but because of what I might have on the card. I will tend to store a lot more on a 64 than a 32 because of the size. So I'm kind of aware of that. So I prefer to have 32. If I lose a 32 and there's stuff in it, I'm not going to cry as much as I would cry with a 64 that probably has a lot more in it. So it depends on preference. Some people advise that you use like large high quality memory cards, but for me it all boils down to the fact that any card can fail. So just have extras available for you to use on set. And once you're done filming for the day, transfer your stuff, back up your stuff, have like 1-2 extra hard drives that store what you need to store on your laptop, store on your desktop, store on your hard drives. Just have backup, okay? Have extra. So if you're also shooting maybe like a scene where you're using like a prop that you might need to destroy, or the character has to destroy while maybe they're meant to break a glass cup, and then the positioning of your cameras, you're not able to capture every angle while that glass cup is breaking. you might need to have extra glass cups to be broken so that every angle that you need to capture to tell your story better will be captured. So have extra. So if you're using, maybe you're using business cards for instance, and maybe someone's supposed to spill water on a business card. If they spilled it the first time and that's the only card that you have, it'll be hard to shoot the scene again if you need to shoot the scene again. So those little things that might need to be destroyed on set, you need to have as many as possible. Don't just print one or don't just buy one. Get as many as you can. The other reason you should have many memory cards is because while if you're trying to transfer on set, it might be time consuming to be doing that. So replacing your card is just way easier and faster. The next thing I would say is that you should sort your clips as you go. So if maybe it's a week-long shoot, you're shooting every day. You finish day one. When you get back home or when you're able to, empty the card, check out the clips that you worked on, see which one you're going to eventually use for shooting, pick the ones that you think you're going to use for the movie or for the commercial or whatever it is you're doing, and then keep the rest in, maybe I think I called my own miscellaneous folder, so miss or something like that. So keep the rest in the other folder for maybe if something comes up and you still need to go back there and pick out some other clips to replace something. Every day you finish shooting, sort out. You might be able to watch what is going on while you're on set. I mean, the director should be watching what is going on, watching the different angles on maybe a desktop or something, just to see how every angle is being captured from each of the cameras that you'll be using on your set. But sometimes there are just certain details, because you're watching different angles at once. There are certain details that you might not be very conscious of at that time. And then when you get back home and then you watch the clips, or if you wait till you're done shooting, then you watch the clips, you're like, wow, okay, I really should have, noted that, or I should have seen that would happen. Ensure that you have, ensure that you're editing as you go, not necessarily editing as you go, but at least sorting your clips as you go. Also, if you're recording your audio separately, I'd advise that you merge your audio to your video together as you go. I mean, sometimes it might be different for different reasons. Sometimes you might just be recording like a voiceover for a scene, so you might not need to try to merge something at that point. But then if you're recording audio separately for the scene where you have to merge to the video eventually, make sure you're checking in on that and ensuring that it's clean, it's good enough for you to use, the audio is being recorded properly, because what you don't want is to spend so much money recording audio and then the audio you get is useless. The clips you get are useless. You can't use them with your clips eventually when you're ready to edit. Something else I also figured out is make a checklist. I know that there are these applications, I think Studio Binder, stuff like that you could use to manage your production project for, they're mainly designed for creatives, okay? So then they're not like the regular project management tools. They're designed almost like that to help people who are production managers. I definitely will figure out using those tools soon, but for now, I like to make a checklist of the things that I need to do for each scene, or things that I need to note for each scene. It could be as little as me remembering that the mic can only go behind the dress of the character. Things like that. Maybe they shouldn't put the mic somewhere else. I note things like that down just so that while I'm on set, I'm going through my notes. It might be hard for me to go and start checking storyboard to see, what is going on. But because the notes are always on my phone, I'm able to just quickly see what I need to remember for every scene or every set location. So if the picture is supposed to be on the wall somewhere, I have to note that down. If a lot of basic things that you might just not necessarily think about until when you're back home, you're done shooting, and then you're looking at the clips and you're thinking, oh, I should have put this there, or I should have put that there. So yeah, I would say you should make a checklist of things that you want to do or things you need to note for every scene. If you're meant to put snacks somewhere, put it there. If there's supposed to be a certain color of plate or color of cup or color of shoe that's just somewhere that's supposed to remind somebody of something, I write that down in my notes. I put that down in my notes because you might think that everyone is aware of those things and you're probably the only one that has to remember or that's responsible for remembering. So I need to have my notes there to always kind of remind me. I think the last thing, or second to the last thing I would say, is if you're using a location that is not, you don't have control over, it's not yours. So it's maybe if you're using your friend's house, or you're renting a restaurant or a gym, whatever it is you're using, make sure you have permission to use. Make sure you have permission to shoot. So sometimes you might go to a park and then you think that because everyone can take a selfie there or everyone can hold a camera there, then you should be allowed to use, or you should be allowed to set up all your gadgets there and start shooting. But sometimes you might need permits to do production shoots because they won't allow you shoot commercial purposes on that location. So I'll say you should be aware and ensure that you have the permission to use whatever location you're using. It might be even your friend's house, it might be your uncle's house, whatever it is. Like, just ensure that you have the right permission to use what you're using, because you don't want your set members or your crew members to feel uncomfortable. You don't want your cast members feeling uncomfortable or while on set. You don't want them feeling like they can't work freely. You don't want them walking around the place on eggshells or stuff like that. So just ensure you have permission. Okay, it's embarrassing to be thrown off a set because somebody is not happy, or because the owner is pissed off at the cast members, or you did tell the owner of the house or the management what exactly you're going to be doing. Sometimes that can be hard, but you kind of have to be as explicit as possible with them so that they know what's happening, and then they're not surprised halfway through your shoot and then they throw you out or something. So the last thing I would say regarding that is be open and be flexible. So be open to change and be flexible. Sometimes things might not just go the way you want. You might have a set location today and then tomorrow you don't have it anymore, and you still have to continue that scene, and you have to make do, either shoot again what you shot before, or you have to create a makeshift set for you to continue your shooting. So make sure that you are open to change and you're flexible enough to get things done. You probably will go over budget with shooting. It's sometimes hard to estimate what you would need at the beginning. You still have to estimate regardless, because that's pretty much how things work, or that's how you can start. But sometimes things will go over budget and you have to spend a little more. Things just happen, so you just have to be open to change and ready to be flexible. To wrap up, I'd say that finding talent might be your easiest part. It might be the easiest part of your production. It might sound absurd at the beginning, because maybe you're contacting 1 to 3 people and nobody is answering you, or nobody wants to work with you as an independent filmmaker. But by the time you get your cast members, you get your crew, you realize that finishing the work and fighting self-doubt till you're done is definitely one huge part of the work. That might be your very difficult period, going through the shooting process and then doing post-production work. Post-production is that part where you've already gingered everybody about the movie or the commercial, whatever it is you're working on, because the people who acted or who help you shoot, they are waiting for the finished product. So you've let everybody know that you're doing something, and then it's that period where you now have to work so hard to finish it, because you've already let everyone else know and you don't want to let these people down. Here's my voice trying to fail again, my goodness. Anyway, the point is, just be open and be ready to be flexible. That's it. That's all I have to say. That's it for this episode. If you have other tips on, or things that you've learned from working on production set, you can share them in the comments. Okay, I'll be there to read and respond. All right. Thank you so much for watching or for listening to this episode today. I hope to see you in another episode. Till then, stay blessed. Bye.